Staying true to yourself while creating, that's one of the hardest things you'll do. Every artist, entrepreneur, and creator faces the same tension. How do you honor your vision when bills need paying? When critics don't understand? What does it actually take to stay true to yourself in your creative work? What do you risk? And what do you gain by being yourself? I'm an actor, author, and entrepreneur, and my own journey has shown me that being authentic in your creativity requires courage. So settle in, these are honest conversations about what it means to create. Welcome back. Today's conversation is with Anjanée Bell, a creator and political candidate, and we are going to discuss creativity and craft and what it means to stay authentic when you're constantly in the public eye. Welcome, Anjanée.
Thank you.
Would you like to kind of explain or tell your story and let people know what it is that you do and your focus, especially as far as the political arena is concerned, so people can kind of get to know you?
I'm a creative. That, to me, lends itself in a very broad way because I've done so many things. The air I breathe, I often say, I'm a dancer. But, I played music, I write, just making and transforming people, spaces, ideas. That's just ultimately, what's natural for me. You mentioned political candidate. That was something that was born out of a call, because I grew up in a political household, but I'm an artist through and through. Mm-hmm. And so that's in every space that I exist in, no matter what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Educator, and a mom. A mother too. Yeah. So, different labels for different, sure. Different audiences and needs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm an artist and a creative.
Amazing. So many people may recognize your last name, Bell, and your father was a mayor in Durham, North Carolina for how many years?
16.
16 years?
Yes.
And so how was that growing up in that sort of environment? What type of things did you learn? What type of things were you kind of what type of things did you have to sort of hold back? Can you kind of explain or kind of talk to that?
Yes. I think for me, growing up in my household is twofold, because there was my mom, who just is a tremendous influence, for all of us. Mm-hmm. But I will say that growing up in my home, we understood voting was a responsibility that we had. So as soon as I could vote, I've been voting. Mm-hmm. That was just something that, whether I understood the politics, I just knew it was my responsibility to go to the ballot box. And that was just something my dad just really impressed upon us. I think that both my parents were IBMers, so there was just a methodology in terms of the way things worked. Mm-hmm. My father is one that, he always was about, keeping your word. And that's just something, and also a budget. So it was one of those things where, I would ask for $5 and my dad would say, let me see your budget. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up understanding how to write and read budgets. And, and even my life today, it's still, if you look at my desktop, I have several spreadsheets that I'm operating, dealing with different aspects of my life. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I think that it persists even, most recently in terms of, the recent campaign, and that's people's expectations, their ideas, their assumptions. Mm-hmm. And, in my household, going to school, people always assumed, they assumed what we had, from a financial perspective, our access to different things. And that just wasn't the truth. That wasn't right. Our reality, because my father, was and still has been one that he held some really clear lines. Mm. He didn't blur. Mm-hmm. And so as much as people thought there were benefits to us as a family, there were more drawbacks, right. Than anything, because, my dad just never mixed, he just never mixed what he did with family. It just never, his political pursuits were never to advance us as family, you know, and so many times, you know, you feel like you're on well, for me, because I think that my world was moving in parallel with my dad. And I didn't realize that until much later. Yeah. And so what that looked like is, you know, from me starting businesses in Durham, you know, I had a dance company in a studio, and, you know, I was doing things always to serve the people, but it wasn't easy. And, you know, people wouldn't help because they thought that I didn't need help. You know, I didn't need resource, you know, because people always led, well, you know, your father is the mayor, then you must have lots of money, or you know, you just don't need the help, because those are just simple assumptions that people make because they see someone who is influential and is in many different spaces, but never even chime into the sacrifices that, you know, the family makes to allow those, you know, to have space for that. And I never really thought about that as a child. I just knew what it was to be out in school and then growing and being amongst people and community. And so much of that too was always having to navigate people's intentions. Why are you talking to me? Do you need something from me? You know, and so as I got older and in different spaces, those were, you know, and even today, it's just, those are the things that still move in parallel with ambition and drive and everything else. And, you know, trying to build in a place where there's such a heavy hand.
Did you ever find yourself needing to hold back your own creative voice, your own authenticity, because you knew you were in the public eye and under a sort of microscope?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's funny because I remember going through this campaign and it felt like I was a little girl all over again.
Really?
It takes me back. Yeah. Because, you know, there's also this idea that you have it all together, that you know everything, you know, in a sense that because you've been in these spaces and, you know, and the thing is, it's such a double-edged sword because you glean so much. It's like the master class that, I mean, you can only dream of, because I'm seeing things as they happen in front row. But yes, when you're out, there has to be some controls to behavior and voice and the things you say or you don't say. And you protect the home, everything that's in it, because there's the united front. There's the image of, because my father, it was beyond 16 years. I mean, he served almost 5 decades.
Wow.
Right. And so, and I'm 49. No, I will be 49. So the majority of my life,
was your father serving?
Is serving.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's interesting because even like today, this month, like I was talking about this as I was coming on my way here, because they're just things that, because I've always had to be so controlled in the way I move, from, you know, how I dress to, you know, it's just different things, image wise, that dancing was my saving grace. It was where I was freest. My creating has always been the safest space for me. I love people, but people also bring about other things that just drum old dirt, right? And that's why I say, you know, going through this campaign, it was so much bigger than just the campaign. It was just, I was a little girl all over again, because people sometimes moving in their own way, they don't think about the harm of their assumptions and their ideas. And many times I would tell people, I'm someone you can always ask anything. Now, whether I answer or not, that's still my choice, but I'm never one that's not accessible. And I would prefer you to ask anything that you are thinking about, because I have lived with assumption for the majority of my life, you know, and people having ideas. And so my work, that's where I live, you know, and even my approach to campaigning, you know, much of that the first time around, I was juggling other people's ideas about what it needed to look like and what it needed to be, you know, even in terms of, I mean, it started as what my signs looked like. It would be what my hair looks like all the things that, once again, being in my household, in this family, and the expectations of people, it just rang true. You know, just rang real for me all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. So sort of every aspect of what you do, whether it's your craft, whether it's your approach to being a political candidate, it is to essentially serve others.
Yes.
Do you find that that has restricted you from really tapping into yourself fully, or is that where you kind of dive deeper into your craft and you explore that that sort of authenticity in your craft and you keep it separate from what the public sees?
Well, you know, for me, when I was making work in the theater, it was real. I mean, there were, and honestly, it's so interesting because I was just saying this to my sister the other day because I was watching my daughter. She was dancing, and there was a song that was playing, and I had touched that piece of music years ago, and I was thinking, I said, you know, it would be different for me now because who I am today, which a lot of my lights turned on about who I am at 45. Like that is where I felt like I'm in my skin. I am who I am.
More confident.
I am more confident, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I sit today. So coming out of this campaign, this campaign space, I'm entering a whole nother chapter, and one that, all right, I tried it. I did this once again, like pulling in other people's thoughts and assumptions and ideas, and I carried it with me, but it's time to let all that go. And now it's really time to truly let the world see Anjanée, because I was able, you know, with the help of so many people, we achieved a thing. But now it's like, I don't have to, it's not about my father.
Right.
Now, this is truly about Anjanée. And because I've always been one of service. And that's why I say, you know, the path that I've walked and I've danced has been so parallel with my father. Like I always thought we were so different. And the older and the wiser and more aware of myself, there are many intersections between me and my father. And the major one is how we serve. Like, I don't serve for the dollar. I don't serve for the fame. Like that was me dancing, because I would always remember coming off a stage and people, oh my gosh, it was so great, blah, blah. And that always made me feel a bit uncomfortable, much like my father, right? Because what that space is for me when I'm making and I'm performing, and it's me giving of myself. It's me moving out energy. It's me like regenerating. And when I'm not able to do that, I get very locked and clogged, and that feel of restriction, that's when I'm not my best self, my most authentic, because my authentic self is open, it's free, fluid, direct, you know? And so, but all of it's been necessary to get me to today.
So you mentioned you're stepping into the Anjanée that you want everyone to know. Who, I mean, obviously we've touched on, you know, your love of dance and creativity and whatnot, but who is the Anjanée? Who would you say is this Anjanée that people don't know? Is there anything that people, you know, should know more about you that you really have been trying to express that you haven't really had the chance? Now's your time to, I guess, say like, what do you think who you are?
I think that because I'm an introvert, you know, I'm an introvert. And sometimes because I have the ability to be out and to speak and to do these things, I think, you know, sometimes my serious nature makes people, you know, I've often been met with, like, I can't control. Sometimes as much as I work to control my face, and sometimes when I'm moving through my thoughts, the serious aspect of my persona, it's only because I'm thinking and I'm constantly, processing, and because I'm always very serious about the things that I do, that people don't realize that I really love to laugh.
Okay.
I really like to have a great time, and that I feel a lot with people. I'm an empath, and that's the word that I really have been embracing for the last few months, because going through a political cycle, and honestly, to be frank, it's very similar to sometimes when I was making work for theater, for people, for schools, because in all of that, sometimes you're having to navigate public thought and expectations. And so for me, I think that the part that I just want people to know is just the fact that I love to laugh and I feel everything, and that I hurt too. Sure. And just because I've had the privilege to be in certain spaces and have certain experiences, there's still so much that I don't know. And I want people to really know that I am human. Yeah. That's real for me. Yeah. I'm human, because I think sometimes people forget.
Right. They see you, they see your father, they see your family, and they assume that you guys have everything together. They assume that things come easy for you because of who your family is. And that's not always the case. And you have to sort of convey that to people and say, hey, you guys, I have interests. I'm deeply creative. I want to do good things for the public. And I feel like those misconceptions get lost with people, and they don't understand that. They don't really give you the space to be who you are because of, who they think you are.
Yes.
And I feel like being in the public eye, you go through that more often than the normal average person does. So, I mean, if you weren't in the public eye, would you still be doing what you're doing? Would you still be pursuing dance and creativity, or would you maybe go in a different direction?
So there really isn't any difference of what I do in any space. I mean, there's a process that I take in anything that I pursue. So even with approaching a campaign, that was like approaching a production. It's like, I know there's this day that's coming, and there's choreography that has to happen. There's the team, all the people, your fellow artists and technicians, and all the people that you need to get to the production. And that's what it is. It was just, the process is very similar. You have something that you're wanting to communicate in different pieces of work, and then there's music, and there's all these things. Yeah. So it's very similar. So my process, and I think that's also what allows me to do various things, is because I have a similar process in everything that I do. And so I'm always fascinated to talk to other creatives, because I like to see how similar our processes are. And the answer is yes. I mean, I don't think, no matter what I'm doing, it's always to serve people in a greater good. And for me to truly live in my purpose. And that changes. Like I remain open. And sometimes I think because of that spirit in which I lead, I'm often misunderstood at the same time, because I'm not in a box. I smash boxes, actually, but because I'm so open and attuned to space and energy, that it allows me to exist in different ways with different people, but still moving in the same call and action. And so, sometimes that leads you, and that's why I tell people all the time, artists, like, we are disciplined. We are, we require structure, and all that allows us to be free. Yeah. But sometimes I think because I don't, the years I guess, traditional paths, And that's also that part of expectations about what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that also has, because I've always lived as an artist and a creative, and that I've just been met with a lot that earlier, that led me to like where I have therapists.
Yeah, I get it.
And so it's just like, because, you just, you're in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
And so that sometimes.
What do you think the biggest misconception that people have about the two? Are they similar? Are they different? And why is it so hard for people to grasp that a politician could be an artist?
I think that's a great question, because I experienced that a lot through the campaign, because there was also a spirit that I shouldn't talk about being an artist. And I think that is because people fear what they don't understand, right? And what has transpired over years, and especially in our current climate of politics, it just doesn't feel like it's about serving people.
Right.
Because at the heart, the simplest aspect of what politics truly means, it's about there's an issue, you take it to the town square, and diverse minds, hearts and spirits figure out how to solve that one issue.
Right.
Right? That's not what we're experiencing today. It's not about people. What we're experiencing today is much about greed. And where I think there are the intersections between art and politics is because, from my opinion, from my experience, as artists and creatives, there's something that we are trying to solve. We are trying to free. We are trying to help our audience, our public, resolve. And that's where I think the connection between art and politics exists. An elementary student, he said, you're an artist, and if you had to, give up being an artist to be mayor, what would you do? And my response, because I thought it was so brilliant, and I said, luckily I don't.
Wow.
Because as an artist, I exist in that space.
Sure.
Because as an artist, we think about things from in so many different levels and layers, and we're able to connect and pull apart and we deconstruct and put things together. I mean, there's so many things that it's connected in a way that allows us to be successful in ways that when you're only, you can only move in one way. That's what makes, I think, an artist great.
Yeah.
In the world of politics, is because what politics is at its core is what we do naturally as artists.
I was going to say, as an artist, our entire sort of realm, or what it is that we're really meant to do, is to provide something of value to the public. And that's essentially what a politician is. We're providing a resource, a sort of center that people can focus on as a center of leadership in a sense. So it makes sense for an artist to kind of lean into the political realm, because that's already what we do. We're already serving the public and the people and trying to provide some sort of comfort, whether it's entertainment, whether it's beauty, whether it's knowledge, whether it's just like a sort of escape from our natural world, So taking the element of artistry and craft and bringing it into politics is important, because, in the political arena right now, it's so bureaucratic. It's so it's very law oriented, which is great. We need law and order, of course, but at the same time, we need creative minded people to be able to contribute to leadership, people who have that ability. So I would love to hear your take on politics being a sort of craft, or how you could sort of bridge artistry and craft into politics.
I think to do that, you have to return it to the people. I think when it's withheld from the people, it makes it really difficult. I think about my creative process, even in developing a campaign. To do that, I had to be with the people. Right. I had to feel, I had to listen, I had to absorb, I had to think about it. It's a process. I mean, it just reminds me of when I would be in studio, and I would, I'd start with, it could simply be a word, and the piece would evolve.
Yeah.
And so to me, what I think has to happen is it has to all come back to the people. Why I believe people are just so averse to politics is because it has nothing to do with the people. It has to do with greed. And as artists, that's never why we're working.
Right.
That's not why we're producing.
Right.
We're not producing because we're going to be, millionaires and billionaires. We're producing because there's something that's persisting that we see that can make the world better. That's what we have to return to that space, the simplest form of what politicking it means. And it has to come back to the core center, which is people. People coming around different ideas. Everybody is not the same, and oh my gosh, how poor the world would be if we all were, but it's coming around an idea, right? That gets us all excited. It's like the fire, right? And that's what I believe it requires. My efforts of running and continuing in this course, because I often say, it started with, I'm not a politician, but someone reminded me, because there's politics in everything. And so even we as artists in our world, there is politics in that, and we just have to come back to the basics. And when we can return to the basics, then maybe we can start getting some things really done. But right now, we are out of sorts because we've gotten so far removed from what it really means to, one, be a politician, which is a public servant. Right. I mean, and so until we start really kind of coming back to that, then, it's going to be very difficult for people to even understand why it makes sense for that an artist naturally exists in these spaces, and we have the ability to truly move people. Right. Because of naturally what we do. Right. Whether it's music, whether it's film, whether it's dance, it's art, all of that moves people. Our surroundings, everything that we see, it had to be created by some artist, right? It's just everything we do, the cars we drive, the food we eat when we go to restaurants, the craft cocktails, any of those things, our homes, clothes, everything. And that's what's so odd when people can't see how natural it would be for an artist to exist in a political space. That's the world we live in every day. Right. It's everyone else that, that maybe that's why you're not very good at it. Right.
So because I was a part of your campaign, like the sort of grassroots, and I loved watching you interact with everybody and asking the people, the lay people, the regular everyday artist, the, regular everyday bus driver and teacher, and really connecting with them and saying, hey, what is it that you need? What are these things? I remember you had these little cards that you passed around, and you had questions on them, and you asked us, what were important to us, and we got different answers in each sort of town hall meeting that you did. Some people, it was important for them to have more consistent bus routes, and for other people, it was more important for them to have less gentrification in the area. So I loved how you approached politics in a non-greedy sense. You actually listened to the people and you incorporated that in your campaign when you were running. So I'm assuming you're going to continue this sort of energy in your next run. Are you considering running again next year?
Yes, I am.
Amazing.
I am. I think that the mission is still the mission. And I believe in the power of completion. So we achieved something together, and we have to see it through. And and I just believe that work is still done. It's not finished. So and so yes, I think that the continuation of this journey, yes, it's even more people centered, and learning from the past campaign, some of the things that I felt that were harmful, and things I just wouldn't repeat again, because anything that keeps me away from serving the mission, which is the people, And anything that feels more self-serving, then I just don't want to do that going forward.
Yeah.
And I want to spend more time doing what I did initially, which was listening and being in a space for people to just ask me questions, because it's only then you know what you don't know. You know, and it's like auditioning to me. It's just like it's good. It's a healthy practice. You should always audition, because then that lets you know where you are in your own personal practice. And so this is how I imagine going forward. But you know, I had to recenter. I had to take the time to go through all of the things I was feeling after it was done at that point.
After the first
run.
Yeah.
And that too is very much how I am as a creative. I mean, in my process, it's like I have to feel it all. So I know how to get up out of the ashes and rise.
Yeah, I love how you said auditioning, because it is similar to auditioning. You kind of putting yourself out there to the people who obviously recognize your last name from your father, but knowing how to differentiate yourself from him and show the people that you are a different type of candidate. And so this first sort of iteration for you was an audition. You had to sort of put yourself out there to the people and let them know you. And so now that you've kind of gone through that process and you're ready to kind of regroup and refocus and kind of do it again, is there anything that you would kind of want people to know that you weren't able to really express the first time around, or is that what you're is that what you're going to focus on with this new campaign?
I think that this next time, I'm proud to be an artist. Like I think that was the part that I just held, right? And that was because there was fear in that for many, is that, you know, me sitting in that authentic truth would distance me from the average person. You know, even being a single mom, that would distance me, you know, because, you know, I'm in this very male dominated space, right? I think I proved something, you know, this first time. And I just want to do more work with my fellow artists to show the world what we are capable of.
Right.
That we are capable of leading in these spaces and doing amazing things to connect the dots and to bring value back to the people. And so if there's anything, it is to really stand tall as an artist and to surround myself with fellow artisans. And that's important to me, because that's also been the struggle all of my life. It's to bring value in spaces of being an artist, you know, and not being just underestimated and discounted and not valued. And that also reflects in financial value of what we do in craft. And so that's something that I think that I learned going into government, is the fact that that was me going into a space so therefore I could help to advance my fellow artists in the field. And so this is important, because we are needed now more than ever. And for us to truly be a part of the change, we have to get in the rooms. We have to be in these spaces. And so this next iteration of the campaign, it's about that. It's about, this is the time where we truly can be successful. Because I always say, if the world just goes to Shinola, it's going to take artists to bring it back.
Absolutely.
We are the only ones, truly, because of what is put in us to do the work that we do. You know, we don't do it because there's somebody looking at us all the time. I say when you're a purist in that regard, right? And it truly is a craft. That's the next iteration, is to truly stand firm in my own skin. And it's either you're with it or you're not. And I'm not going to be shamed for that. And I'm not going to be shamed for the house that I grew up in, because I only hope that my children aspire to do an inkling maybe of what I've done. You know, that's why I live the life that I live.
Incredibly powerful. You're so right. Artists, artisans, anyone that kind of creates and makes, we are we make the world, and we need to be heard.
Yes.
All assets, all facets of artistry and creativity need to be heard, and we need to be authentic, and stand firm in who we are, and not be afraid to express that because of what the public might think, or because of the household we grew up in, or because we're in the public eye. So I love it. I think you are truly inspiring. And I think, the type of leadership that you're creating is so new. We haven't seen it before. So I think what you're doing is really great. Is there anything else you want to share to the audience so that they can learn more about you, or anything else you want to?
That's coming. I'm still in the space of recentering and preparing to come out of hibernation. It's almost spring. So, I think that, that time is going to come, but we're going to need everyone, everyone that this speaks to, because this is the time that the healing is going to be necessary, for us to be able to move forward in any way. And so I'm just excited to be here in your journey. I really am. I think this is truly a treat for the day. I thank you because, I think it's so important to just let go, and I feel like, right now I'm breathing a little bit more just as a result of just this space to just
incredible.
Get lighter. Yeah.
Amazing.
So thank you.
Yeah, of course. So where can people follow you, find your work?
So eventually it'll be back at the website. And that, of course, is bellfordurham.com. And so we've kind of removed to get ready to come back out again. This new chapter really strong, and as I said, tall. So yeah, and very centered.
Excellent.
And ready for the next iteration.
I love it.
So here we go.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you.